In July of 2000, former daycare owner Gail Cutro was found guilty of killing 2 babies she was hired to care for. Former Richland County prosecutor Johnny Gasser led the case, and he argued Cutro killed both 4-month-old Parker Colson and Ashlyn Daniel back in 1993 by shaking the babies while she was caring for them in her home daycare. A third baby, Asher Mayer, was also hurt in her care, suffering permanent brain damage, allegedly from shaken baby syndrome. But Cutro was not convicted in that case. In July of 2000, the jury found Cutro responsible for the death of both babies, and she is serving 2 life terms in prison. Cutro is currently serving her time at Leith Correctional in Greenwood. The Gail Cutro case is a case no one in our state and across the country will forget. And now we are thankful to be joined by the man who prosecuted the case, Johnny Gasser, and an author who has written a book, In Good Hands. David Heckler joins us now to discuss this. Gentlemen, thanks so much for being with me today.
Thank you.
Why do you think this is a case that so many years later still grabs the public and is fascinating and horrifying at the same time?
You just don't see something like this happening, particularly in a small city like Columbia, South Carolina. It involved a home daycare woman who was extremely active in her church, Riverland Hills Baptist Church, who had many friends and supporters throughout this whole process. Mm-hmm. And you had 3 children within an 8-month period. One was found deceased. One was definitively shaken to such a point where, unfortunately, he suffered significant brain injury. And a third little girl that was found, infant, that was found deceased, all within an 8-month period.
You were in the courtroom watching Johnny work 20 years ago, more than 20 years ago now, in this case. Did you think, as you were watching the trial, that he would get a conviction?
For sure it was a possibility, but you can't take anything like that for granted. It was a very difficult case, partly because each of those infants who died had initially been diagnosed as victims of SIDS, sudden infant death syndrome. And the child who was shaken had a parent, a mother, who was a recovering drug addict, who had had a previous child in her care removed from her custody, and fingers were pointed at her. So it was a complicated case.
And I know you got a chance to speak with the jury after the conviction, Johnny. What did the jury say was the selling moment for them in the case?
The experts that we brought in, they said were really the key. They needed to know beyond a reasonable doubt that the 2 deceased children were in fact murdered, that they were killed. Early part of 1994, when we brought charges when the grand jury indicted her, Ms. Cutro. And there were no forensic pediatric pathologists in South Carolina at the time. So we had to go out of state, out of the country, quite frankly. We hired the foremost pediatric pathologist in the United Kingdom.
David, in your book, talking about 2 babies dying in the hands of a daycare owner within 8 months, I think shakes the soul of every parent who has ever left a child at a daycare or with a nanny or with a babysitter or with anybody, even a loved one for that matter. What do you take and what should readers take going forward about the ways to protect our children?
Well, one thing all parents need to understand is that if you're using a home daycare, there is no government agency that's really following each daycare. There are no regulators who are going in and inspecting, asking a lot of questions. The lessons here, one of the important lessons here is that every parent should be careful about who they choose for daycare providers, but the choice is the easy part. What you need to do next is drop in unannounced. You need to monitor what's actually going on. Back then, it was a lot harder because there were no cell phones. There was no texting. You couldn't contact other parents and say, did you hear about this incident, or how are things going with your child? There were no nanny cams.
So important to learn from the past moving forward. David Heckler, again, tomorrow is going to be at All Good Books from 6 to 8. Johnny Gasser, the prosecutor in this case, will be there as well. Thank you both for being with us today.
Thank you,
Andrea.